Fender lies again. Artists continue selling off their publishing rights. We'll talk about why that's happening. And Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness, finally retires. All of that next on
Shitpost Friday.
Hey guys, how's it going? Brad the Guitarologist here. First, I wanted to talk a little bit about how well our locals community is going. Definitely check out the locals community if you haven't looked at it yet. I'll put a link down in the description and a pinned comment. Go follow me over on locals. It doesn't cost you a thing to follow. If you want to subscribe, it's like $6 a month, and you'll be able to post over there. You'll even be able to earn tips yourself over there if you have good content. If you contribute to the community, people will be able to even tip you. So definitely check it out. We've got a good little community started. We did our first live stream earlier this week, exclusively over on locals. I will be doing probably one per week, and probably will do those on Tuesday or Wednesday, something like that. And you'll also be able to, on those live streams, kind of live chat, and you can tell me what sorts of things you want me to talk about on Shitpost Friday. The mic of the week this week is this thing. This is a Tonor. This is a USB condenser microphone. This was actually sent to me by the company Tonor. These are really cheap, actually. I think they're under $60, 50, $60, something like that. This one has an attenuator built in on the microphone itself. I'm just going directly into OBS. I do have some post filters in OBS on this thing, like a noise gate and some compression. But other than that, there isn't a whole lot going on. It's a decent looking little microphone. Does okay. It does have some handling noise. I mean, as you would expect with kind of a cheaper microphone, but it does have some heft to it. And it comes with the little isolation mount. It also comes with the arm. It comes with one of these and a pop filter and all that stuff. So pretty much everything you need to kind of get started. And it's really decent. I tell you what, I've been using it for a really long time. I'll put a link down the description or somewhere where you can pick up one of these. They are dirt cheap. And if you're looking for just something that will work, for doing like Zoom meetings or any stuff like that, I highly recommend this microphone. So yeah, let's get into first the sad news. I like to get that stuff out of the way when we do Shitpost Fridays. The Ozzy news is kind of the saddest of all, really. For the last, I think, 2 or 3 years, pretty much since the pandemic kind of started, Ozzy has been canceling his tour dates, and he's been postponing, rather, those tour dates until he was going to be better, hopefully. But it's come time for him to kind of admit the inevitable, and he's canceled all his tour dates and announced that he is retiring from touring. So really the end of an era for heavy metal. Ozzy Osbourne, who of course was one of the founding members of Black Sabbath, formerly called Earth, back in the late 60s. They put out their first album, I think it was 1969 when Black Sabbath was released, the eponymous first album. It's been inevitable for a long time, Ozzy. I mean, he's got Parkinson's. He's kind of done the shaking thing. And, if you ever watched any of the Osbourne's episodes, that reality show that was on back in the early 2000s, he wrecked an ATV back in like 03, which hurt him pretty bad. He had to have a bunch of surgeries. He had like titanium pins put in and to help his spine. He was already not doing that great before that, and he was diagnosed with Parkinson's around the same time. So just a lot of health issues that he's had over the years, and he's finally come to the point where I think recently in 2019, one of his pins that was put in his spine kind of dislodged and was like grinding against bone or something. I'm not exactly sure what was going on with that, but definitely not helping him, doing him any favors. Really sad to see Ozzy finally hanging up the microphone after all these years. And you could see, a picture here of him on this lady's arm. He can barely even walk. And there's video here of him, again, trying to walk. And you can see he's even having to have help, and he's kind of stumbling, So yeah, just really sad to see Ozzy in this kind of shape, but it's inevitable. It happens to all of us. God bless Ozzy, man. He's always been kind of open about, how he feels about religion and stuff. He hasn't eschewed religion, at least in a lot of his lyrics and stuff. He, as much as he goes by the Prince of Darkness thing, a lot of his themes are anti-satanic. I mean, a lot of people have assumed that Ozzy has this kind of satanic streak, and the whole Satan scare stuff back in the 80s, and of course he invited a lot of that, in the controversies, the biting the head off of a dove, things like that. That really just didn't help, but or did help, I guess, if you want to look at it from a certain perspective, but didn't help with the perception that, he was evil or whatever. But I think he's always been a force for good, and he's always talked about being a force for good in his lyrics. Really sad to see that he's retiring, but they do say that he is, although he is not going to be, getting on airplanes and traveling around to do tours and stuff anymore, he may find a residency somewhere. But like we talked a couple of weeks ago about, maybe that's what KISS should do, is find a residency somewhere where they can just stay put in one location and all kind of hook up and, play on the weekends and do a residency. I think that would be really cool. Why don't these rock stars all get together and just create their own place where they can do a residency? Hell, they've got to have enough money where they could build their own hotel, rock star hotel, casino, whatever they wanted to do. They've got enough money. If they pulled their resources, they could all get together, like KISS and Ozzy and these other, aging acts, and have just one place where a destination where people could go. And, people go on those cruises all the time. Why not, do something that's like land based, where everybody is just in one location. You can get in your limo, drive from your mansion, go do your gig, go right back to your mansion, and, and just live there, basically. Not have to travel the world. They could probably make all kinds of money and still pack the house, I would imagine. But, and I would think that you would see a lot more of that type of thing. I mean, heck, that was a trend that began with like Elvis and stuff doing it in Las Vegas back in the 70s. So it's nothing new. It's not a new concept. And it just seems to me like with all the money these people have to be rolling in, like Ozzy and Gene Simmons and the like, that they would just do something like that. And, you could just not have to tour, because it's killer on somebody like me, even my age, and it's got to be killer on somebody when you're approaching 80, So anyway, that's my thoughts on that. But yeah, God bless you, Ozzy. Thank you for all the years of music. Thank you for all the music. Thank you for all the memories. Yeah, hopefully we'll do a residency or something like that. All right, next up in the news, I wanted to show this. I think it was last week or the week before last. I commented on this Badlands guitar company, which was started by the Tone King, Phil McKnight, and a couple of other fellas. The Tone King and Phil McKnight, of course, both YouTubers, both, influencers, if you want to use that moniker. But they, kind of designed this thing from the ground up and put a lot of thought, put a lot of effort into this. And it's custom, built in the USA, built in California. Really nice looking graphic on it, and just, all the kind of the right stuff. And I said at the time that this was probably, of all the YouTubers who have guitar lines, this is probably the one that I would choose to buy if I was gonna, purchase one for myself. But they have already sold out of this thing. They produced 50 and they sold out. So from the time that I last reported it, however long it's been, it hadn't been that long, it's already gone. And that is of this GX1, but they're going to do more of these. And I think this is a really good business model. Like I said before, I wish them the best of success, but heck, they don't even need my best wishes, because it looks like they're going to do pretty well on their own. They were charging $2,500 for this, and they got a lot of flack because people were saying it was too expensive. Well, I mean, go try to buy any other USA-made custom shop guitar that's a limited edition, and you're going to spend at least that. There's not a lot of margin in something like this. By the time they pay everybody to do everything and, buy all the parts, there's just not a lot there left, even at $2,500. I know that for a fact. So anyway, cool that they sold out, but look forward to see what they do in the future. It should be pretty interesting and fun. Okay, moving right along in the news, I did see this. This was posted on the 30th. Gibson and Heritage have officially settled their years-long trademark dispute. Gibson can move forward and focus on innovation with confidence, says a Gibson representative. This has been going on for kind of a long time. Gibson and Heritage had an agreement back in 1991, all the way back then. So we're talking, over 30 years ago. they had this agreement that they kind of would go their separate ways and there would be no issues, and that Heritage would be able to build the guitars that they were approved to build, and Gibson wasn't going to mess with them. Well, here more recently, Gibson, after they were taken over by these new people, KKR and so forth, they were sent the cease and desist letter by Gibson, and rather than just cower in fear, they actually decided to sue them. And this is the result of this. They said, you're not going to push us around. We're not going to take this line down. So, but it looks like to me, if we look at their website, all of the models that they were producing beforehand are still available on their website. I did see some reports where one of the things that Gibson was alleging they were kind of infringing on was the Eagle series, which is this guitar. It's kind of it's the hollow body, and it was the Super Eagle, I think, and maybe also the Golden Eagle that are the higher custom shop versions that have the split parallelograms on the fretboards inlays. They were alleging that those were a violation, but apparently they are also still selling those, because even though they're not listed on the website, I did call Heritage earlier today and talked to someone at Heritage, and they did say that if you order those, you can still get those through their custom shop if you place a direct order. So it doesn't look like Gibson really won anything with this, and both parties ended up having to pay their own legal fees. So I guess you could call it a loss on both ends as far as having to pay legal fees for this stuff, but at the same time, it looks to me like Heritage kind of came out on top, because they apparently are still able to produce everything that they were producing before without hiccup. And that's just fine with me, because in the past few years, I have really just kind of sworn off Gibson. I don't think I'll ever buy a new one, and it's all because of the way that they, treat others within the guitar community. It's just they're not a very friendly company. They're not, I understand protecting your trademarks, but they're going after people for a lot of things. They're going after insurance companies for having the name Tobias and just stuff like that. It just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. And it just seems like to me it's being run by a bunch of lawyers and a bunch of CEOs of gene companies and people who have really little or nothing to do with the actual guitar industry, which kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And I don't believe I'll be buying another Gibson. A brand new one at least. I'll stick to my old vintage ones. Thank you very much. Okay, also in the news, this has been happening quite a bit. All of these artists are beginning to sell off all of their publishing rights and just their catalog rights in general to all of their music. And we're going to talk about why this is happening. The latest one that we've learned about is Justin Bieber. This company, Hipgnosis, bought all of these rights to Justin Bieber's catalog for $200 million, and they have been buying up a lot of other people's stuff too. And they're not the only ones who are buying this stuff up. And there's a reason these companies are doing this, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. They also, just today or yesterday, I guess it was yesterday, they also bought up the song catalog of this trio of British hit makers who do this, who are co-writers of a lot of stuff that's like top 40 or top of the pops kind of stuff. They've written stuff for Lewis Capaldi, Dua Lipa, John Legend, Maroon 5, Ed Sheeran, I know all them, of course, Lily Allen, Bebe Rexha, among others. They have had 20 top 10 singles, over 15 million records, accumulated 5 billion streams, and contributed to over 50 top 40 albums. So sounds like they're getting a lot of maybe valuable stuff in this acquisition. They also recently bought the catalog of Leonard Cohen, Kenny Chesney, Justin Timberlake, Nelly Furtado. They're buying up all this stuff. And if you look up who Hipgnosis is, you find out pretty quickly that they are associated with this company called Blackstone. And who is Blackstone? Well, they're a pretty big investment firm. and they are closely associated actually with Blackrock. In fact, Blackstone and Blackrock, they have I believe they have a common parent company. So Blackstone is where Hipgnosis is getting the money to do this, and they're kind of managing the catalogs. They're getting all the money to do it essentially through Blackstone. So why is this happening? Why is it happening now more than ever? And we can look at a list of artists just recently who have sold out all of their recordings. One of the reasons is pretty obvious. A lot of these guys are aging, and they want to basically cash out because they don't want to have to leave their catalogs, which are valuable, but it's also a kind of an albatross and a bit of a burden to their progeny and their heirs. You would have to know what you were doing with something like that. You would have to manage a catalog. You can't just own the catalog and split it up either. It wouldn't be an easy thing to split amongst, many kids if you had a lot of kids or grandkids or whatever you wanted to do. So all these artists, the best thing for them to do really is just to cash out on it and to, pass the money along to their kids and grandkids instead. A lot easier to divvy up $300 or $400 million, like in the case of Bob Dylan here. That's what he made on his, apparently. And also, he sold some master recordings on top of that for another $200 million. So, wow, I mean, Bob Dylan really cashed in. But his catalog is definitely going to be worth something because he's just a great songwriter. He wrote a lot of great songs. We already talked about Neil Young. He sold 50% of his career catalog to Hipgnosis. Stevie Nicks, she sold out to this company, Primary Wave. But if you look down through here, you see a lot of Hipgnosis here. David Crosby. But most of these are being sold to, you see there's Blondie, Chrissy Hind, Air Supply, Culture Club, Devo. All these people are selling out. There's Mick Fleetwood. So most of Fleetwood Mac has completely sold out at this point. Bob Rock sold 100% of his rights to Metallica's Black Album and 4 Michael Bublé albums to Hipgnosis. Why did Bob Rock own rights to Metallica's Black Album? That's, they need to send him packing. They've needed to send him packing for a long time. I think they would do better without Bob Rock. Please, for the love of God, Metallica, get rid of Bob Rock. Work with somebody else for a change. I mean, look at all these people who've sold out their entire catalogs, and this is just kind of, like I said, recently. I think this is happening because these asset managers are looking for places to park lots and lots of cash. They want to get out of their positions in dollars, and they want to put that money into something because of the rate of inflation, but also because I think that they see that there is going to be there's going to be hard times ahead. And like I said, Blackstone, the company who has been financing a lot of these purchases for Hipgnosis, they are closely related to Blackrock, and the CEO of Blackrock sat down for an interview, and some of the things that he had to say are kind of interesting, whether you like the guy or not. Larry Fink, he has some interesting perspectives and some things to say. I would like to share some of this stuff.
I actually believe inflation will be abating very rapidly. Is it going to go back down to 2%, which is their objective? That's going to be hard. And that's going to be the fundamental issue. Where is an acceptable level of inflation? I mean, in my 40-something years of being in markets, you would have dreamed for 3 or 4% inflation. So we set this target now of 2%, which can be debated why 2, and I've had conversations on that. My biggest worry is not that we're not going to see a falling of inflation back to 3 or 4%. My biggest worry is the world is losing hope. We have seen a collapse in birth rates and demographics. We're actually going to enter a period of more what I would call malaise. We are all seeing the transformation of China. China going from what I would have called a very economic-minded economy to a more ideological economy. We're seeing the attendant effects on that, and we're seeing a Chinese economy slowing down to a 3. We have the European economy that has really fundamentally changed right now related to the Russian gas and the cost of energy and the fiscal support by governments. And so I believe after we get out of this real spike in inflation, we're going to be waking up to a world that's going to be a 2-ish, 3% world with maybe 3 or 4% inflation.
He's talking about GDP growth right there. So if the GDP growth is not exceeding the level of inflation, then basically everything has stagnated. And what he's talking about is when he talks about malaise, he's talking about a depression. That's essentially what he's talking about. You know, when you have a protracted period of no growth or negative growth, it's usually referred to as a recession. But he seems to be a little more bearish on things as far as the future goes. That would explain why Blackrock is putting all of its money into real assets. You know, you've probably seen all of the headlines about this company, Blackrock, buying up all the homes. So they're putting money into real estate. They're buying up basically all the rental home. This guy manages like somewhere between $8.5 and $10 trillion. So, I mean, that is a big chunk of the really of the total economy under Blackrock. So it's not small potatoes, and this guy knows what he's talking about. Like I said, like him or dislike him, I don't think that he is lying here when he says that he thinks that there's a malaise coming. And you know, Blackrock and also Blackstone, this other sort of sister company, are putting their money into real assets that are long term, you know, that are kind of looking down the road. I mean, to me, this explains what's going on. These companies are looking really for anything that can be regarded as an asset. They're looking at these song catalogs as a new asset class that they can get into, like you know how a lot of people will buy Picassos and put them up on the wall and wait, you know, 5-10 years and then sell them again. You know, rich people have been doing that sort of thing for a long time. It's just a place to park a lot of money, especially during times of uncertainty. Or if you have made a lot of money and you need a place to put it where it's not just sitting there doing nothing for you, you buy a painting and stick it up on the wall. Well, if you buy song catalogs, it's kind of the same thing. You're buying a song catalog and sticking it up on the wall and putting it in your portfolio. But in the meantime, you're also hiring a management company to manage that song catalog, and it's paying you in royalties, which is kind of like a dividend. So it's actually, in a lot of ways, it can be better than a painting because it can pay you as you go in dividends or royalties. But it can also, when you go to sell it, you might actually make out there also. I mean, it's a big risk, yes, but there are also a lot more ways that, again, that these companies are going to try to exploit this material too when it comes to stuff like, and we've already seen this. We talked about it last week, I guess it was, when we talked about hologram concerts. I think that's going to end up being a big thing. And you know, you might scoff at this, and you might say to yourself, I would never do that. I grew up in the heyday of all those bands. I would never go see a holographic concert of Yes or The Doors or Nirvana or whoever, Bruce Springsteen, or I don't know, whoever, Ozzy Osbourne, Kiss. You might say that you would never do that, but there are probably a lot of people who would. And once these artists are dead and gone, especially, that's the only way anyone can ever see them again. And I think that that's going to end up being a big thing. Of course, streaming is going to continue to grow. As a matter of fact, the music streaming market, you can see right here, is projected through 2030 to really, really take off. And it is going to expand at a compound annual growth rate, or a CAGR, of 14.7% from 2022 to 2030. So yes, the streaming is going to continue to grow, and there is going to continue to be more revenue in this content. At the same time, I think you're going to start seeing a lot more of these publishers and these managers of these catalogs. They're going to start activating teams of lawyers to start going after one another over some of this stuff, because, you know, it could be said there's nothing new under the sun, and there are so many songs out there that sound very, very similar to a lot of other songs, and you can really foresee possibly a time where AI will get so good at identifying possible infringements on IP that you're just going to get a situation where everybody's going to be going after everybody else. AI is getting so good, I don't think that there really are that many new melodies that can possibly be written. There's certainly not that no more chord progressions, that are going to be written that haven't been done before, at least closely. So I don't know, man. I'm not trying to be a downer here, but it's just music as a means of expression is still alive, yes, as a means of personal expression. But music as a means of like becoming a rock star or, making $1 million or $1 billion or whatever, I think that ship is pretty much sailed. And the only people who are going to be able to get rich off of it from here on are going to be people who already are rich. And it's going to be people with a lot of money to spend on catalogs like this. And like I said, I don't mean to be a downer about it, but it just seems to me that there isn't anywhere else to go. I did see this also in the course of my research, that the electric guitars market is projected to grow by about 7%. So that's less than half of what the streaming will grow by 2030. So, an investment in a guitar company, it's going to make you some money, but it's not going to make you as much money as if you invested in these streaming services too. And, the thing is also, if you think about it, if you're able to buy up enough of the property, the musical landscape, if you were to buy up enough of it, you would have a massive weapon that you could wield. Like I said, whoever has the best AI systems to identify possible infringements on the copyright. And we see this all the time on YouTube. I'm constantly complaining about how I've gotten a copyright ding or somebody's trying to claim something of mine and take all of my revenue because, something I played was like close to something that somebody owns or was in the background of something. And it wasn't, it was just in passing, or I was using it in a fair use manner, but they still try to claim it anyway. And this sort of thing is happening more and more all the time. And if you have good enough AI and content identification like this, there's gold to be mined in them their hills, basically. There's just a lot going on, and the future seems uncertain. And, the CEO of Blackrock definitely thinks that the future is uncertain.
The financial narrative every day is about the TikTok of the market, about meme stocks, about crypto, and none of that really matters.
Listen to
what
this.
matters is the long-term outcome, since most of our money is retirement. I write these letters with the idea that it's a 20, 30-year narrative and how to give people hope and confidence. Because if you don't have hope, why on earth would you invest for 20, 30 years outcome? Okay, if you have no hope, you're going to keep all your money in a bank account. And that's what we're seeing in China right now. 45% of all savings is in a bank account. You systematically see an 18% savings rate in Europe because they don't have the same hope that Americans do. I mean, one of the most influential reasons why America differentiated itself over the 50 years post-World War II, now 70, is hope. We have had the ability to have more long-term hope. If we lose that long-term hope because of the narrative and all that stuff, it is going to be harder for the U.S. to have differential growth.
What he's saying there, essentially in this interview, is that they're focusing on real assets that are long-term investments, and basically they're battening down the hatches by putting all this money into these real investments. And like I said, part of that strategy is buying up these song catalogs. And also, this is another way that COVID, the lockdowns and everything have had a massive effect negatively on people, because a lot of these artists who did decide to sell their catalogs, probably what pushed them over the edge into deciding to sell was the fact that they couldn't do anything else. They couldn't go out and tour. They couldn't play anywhere. There was nothing else really to do but go ahead and sell out. And plus, because everybody was staying home, the streaming services started shooting through the roof. So the value of their catalog, as in terms of like for streaming and things like that, went up. So it was a good time for them to cash out. You're not going to be playing, many concerts and stuff. You can't make money that way, and you have to bring in something, to pay your bills and eat. So this is what they were doing. They were selling out for that reason. And again, that's just another way that the insidiousness of the lockdowns really affected the strategies of artists and musicians. Okay, last up in the news, I wanted to show you this. I kind of filmed this yesterday, so check this out. So Fender has lied to us yet again. Okay, so I wanted to draw attention to something. On January 10th, I released a shitpost Friday that showed the H.E.R limited edition Stratocaster. You know, maybe you guys saw that report that I did where I talked about this blue limited edition Stratocaster that Fender was releasing, which was supposed to be limited to 300 units. In fact, Premier Guitar, well, all of the guitar magazines or online website news reporters reported on this press release, and it's Fender announces the H.E.R limited edition Stratocaster. Again, it's a press release right here from January the 10th. Fender unveils a blue marlin finish for the historic H.E.R Stratocaster guitar, and they release it with only 300 units made worldwide. This guitar is a true special limited edition. So they said up front that they were going to release it in 300 pieces, but they have since changed that. After I made my Shitpost Friday report where I talked about how this was going to offer us a very good way to gauge whether or not the market was there for a female limited edition, or, well, for female signature guitars in general. So this should be an interesting case study, or it's interesting to know exactly how many women are playing guitar and whether or not we're being fooled into believe that there are that many women with interest in buying all these guitars. So this will be very interesting to see if they are able to sell out of this guitar and how long it takes to sell out of this guitar. So this was going to offer us a really good way of gauging whether or not female signature guitars are really in high demand in the marketplace in actuality, or whether this is something that is just being done to kind of make it seem as if Fender is scoring inclusivity points or something, you know, by releasing more female signature guitars than the market actually will bear. And the argument was, you know, when this sells out, and we should be able to see when it sells out because we'll be able to look online and see if there are any more left. If we look out there and we see, oh, there's still a bunch of these out there, you know, waiting to be sold at dealers, you know, the dealers either have them or Fender has them on their website, then that will tell us, man, you know, the demand really wasn't there for this Stratocaster, and it probably isn't there for a lot of other female artists' signature models. So that's kind of what I was driving at with that. But they've changed it. So since then, they've changed it to from a 300 limited edition to this is limited to 2023 production only. So they've kept it limited edition, so to speak, but it's no longer 300 units like they said in their press release, which again is still up on Premier Guitar's website. Their original press release is still right there with 300 units and them touting it as a true special limited edition. Now they've changed it to 2023 only. Here's the interesting part is you can look at my original video and you can see this guitar.com article is up there in my video, and it does not have this byline right here of the with this language of the 2023 production only. They changed that at some point. And if we actually go to the Wayback Machine web archive, we can see that my video was released on January 13th. And this was changed, or this bot crawl happened on January 13th at 1:41:19 Greenwich Mean Time. So I don't know what that translates to. I think that's 5 hours removed. So that would be like 6 p.m. our time. So that was right after my video went live. Within a couple of hours of my video going up, they went back and changed this language. At some point there, they had to have changed that language within that kind of 2 to 3 hour window. And they also changed the language over on Music Radar. Okay, so this one you can clearly see it says it has this limited to 2023 production. If we plug this into the Wayback Machine, okay, on January 10th, there was a bot crawl on that website, and it was archived. And you can see right here, they have the original 300, limited to 300 units worldwide. This is for Music Radar's website. Now it says this language. limited to 2023 production. So after my report went out on Shitpost Friday saying, hey, this is going to give us a really firm opportunity to see whether or not female signature models are good sellers, because if this 300, this is a good looking Strat. It's very limited to only 300 units worldwide. And if it doesn't sell out within, I'd say, a couple months, give them 2 or 3 months, maybe a quarter of the year for just 300 guitars, which is a paltry number, you would think for, a limited edition Fender, then we can kind of conclude that, maybe it's something to do with the fact that they're trying to release guitars that there's just no market for. It's highly possible, because who's going to buy that other than somebody who is a H.E.R fan, and most likely a female who wants to play like her or looks up to her as an artist. And this is nothing against the artist, or nothing against her music. I don't even know what her music sounds like for the most part. I've only heard a couple of things by this artist, so it has nothing to do with the artist. I'm not coming down on the artist. I'm not coming down on female guitarists. I've said all this in the past. It has nothing to do with that. I don't have a vendetta against female guitarists. The vendetta is against the guitar industry that is lying to us, that is saying there are so many females that are playing now, when in reality, I don't think that that's happening. I think it's just them wanting more females because they realize that that's the only way they're going to expand the market, is to get more females to play. And I'm fine with more females playing, but I just don't like being lied to by these corporations. It's not cool. It would just be nice if they would be truthful in their marketing, and they're not truthful in any way, shape, or form in their marketing. And this proves it. They changed this from 300 units worldwide, truly a limited edition, to now being limited to 2023 production, meaning they don't have to put a cap on it. They can make as many as they want, and they don't have to be held accountable to the numbers. So we can't look back later and say, okay, well, this sold really quickly. This sold within the first 60 days. So 60 days, 300 units, it would be able to actually get a figure out of that. And we'd be able to see what the actual market demand was. But they've changed this so we can't see it. We can't see what the market demand is. And that should tell you something about Fender. It's one of two things. It's either the press release was wrong initially, which I highly doubt. Why would they put this in here? And they didn't put it in here once. They put it in here twice. Here's the press release. This is just a reprint of the press release. And lots of news organizations do this. They just reprint press releases from major corporations all the time. It's just part of the standard news cycle. It's the way things are done. And I don't hold this against Premier Guitars. They're just doing their job. They're just passing along the press release. But they say it right here, with only 300 units made worldwide. They say it that time. And then they also down here, they put it right number 1 in the features. So when they released this guitar, they released it as a true limited edition of 300 units, but now they've gone back on that and they've changed it to 2023 production only. And look at this though. There is no hint of this article was updated. Usually if an article is updated like this on major news websites, there is a correction somewhere, like as a footnote, usually, or maybe even as a header up here somewhere. They would have, note to the reader, this article was updated. It would give a date it was updated, a time to reflect new information, blah, 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 blah. It would tell you that somewhere in the article. This doesn't do it. And this one doesn't do it either, this Music Radar article. So they changed the articles. Fender probably called them and said, hey, can you change your article to reflect our new change? But they did not footnote it. And see, they even changed the body of the article. The bad news is it's limited production of 2023 only. This is the next to last paragraph in this article. If we go to the Wayback Machine again and we look at the original article, the way it was written, we'll look down here. The bad news is it's limited. Look, they still say 300 units worldwide. So somebody who buys this is going to probably be very disappointed when they find out that Fender did not limit this to 300 units. They limited it to 2023, but only after the fact. And this gives Fender a couple of different advantages. It gives them the advantage of initially advertising it as 300 units, so it goes out as a big press release, and everybody talks about it when it's initially released as being a limited edition to 300. Then they can go back and secretly change it, call all of the people. They don't have to apparently put any kind of footnotes in here saying that it was changed. So if you ordered one of these things like the day it came out, or like the second day or the third day that it came out or whatever, before my Shitpost Friday went up, you're kind of screwed. I would say that that's probably criminal, really. That I don't think you're legally allowed to do that, to advertise something as only 300 units and then come back in a couple days and call all of the people that you sent press releases to and have them change their articles to say that it's 2023 production. And I know why you did it. I'm pretty sure I know why you did it. You did it for a couple reasons. One, you don't have to limit the production. Lots of people are going to think that they're getting a 300 unit limited edition when they're not. And you're going to be able to wipe your hands and say, well, we sent out a correction. I'm sorry you didn't hear about it, which is BS. And then secondly, it allows them to kind of circumvent the criticism that I had, which is that these female artist signatures probably aren't selling in near the numbers that they're saying that they're selling in, and they get to avoid that criticism when it ends up being true that they don't sell as many, or they don't sell them as quickly, or it takes an entire a couple of years to sell these things out. And this is just another example of Fender being really underhanded in the way that they deal with things. This is just not cool, especially if you had ordered this thing based on the original press release, which is still up on premierguitar.com. It's still published there. They haven't changed it. You can still get to it. At least right now you can. And that's exactly why they did it. But I don't think they'll ever tell you, we did this to avoid the guitarologist's criticism, because who the hell is he, right? He's a nobody. Anyway, yeah, tell me what you think down below. Is this cool to you? Do you think companies should be allowed to do this? Is this even legal? I doubt it. All right, guys, that will do it for Shitpost Friday. I hope you've enjoyed this one. If you have, hit subscribe down below. Definitely check me out over on Locals if you haven't already. If you'd like to shoot me a one-time donation or something like that, I have a PayPal down below. Appreciate any and all help. If you're looking to sponsor some of these videos, I am Sans sponsor at the moment, so hit me up. My email address is down in the description as well. And for now, we will see y'all later.